My name is Darra Kline, and the day my mentor told me I lacked the vision to lead, I felt a fire ignite inside me. I was 34, standing in the polished boardroom of Horizon Ventures, my heart racing as I prepared to pitch a business plan I'd spent a year perfecting. The room buzzed with the usual pre-meeting energy. Executives in sharp suits sipping espressos, flipping through reports, and exchanging those sidelong looks that always made me feel like I was on trial. I'd been with Horizon for 7 years, climbing from a junior analyst crunching numbers in a dimly lit corner office to a senior strategist crafting growth plans for multimillion-dollar clients. This was my shot to prove I could lead, not just advise. My proposal was a bold expansion into sustainable tech, solar-powered infrastructure for urban redevelopment, a vision I believed could redefine Horizon's future. But my mentor, Richard Caldwell, had other plans. He sat at the head of the table, his silver hair gleaming under the chandelier, his expression a mix of boredom and superiority. He'd guided me early on, teaching me the ropes, but over time his praise had turned to condescension. Too emotional, he'd once scribbled on a review. Today I was determined to silence that doubt. The meeting opened with the usual updates. Revenue was flat, competitors were gaining ground, and the board was pressuring for innovation. When my turn came, I stood adjusting my notes with trembling fingers. I've designed a plan to pivot Horizon into sustainable tech, I began, my voice steadying as I clicked through slides. Market analysis, cost projections, a pilot project in Seattle that could yield $50 million in 3 years. This isn't just a side venture, it's our future. I propose leading the initiative as CEO. The room went quiet, the weight of my ambition hanging in the air. For a moment I thought I'd won them over. Then Richard leaned forward, his tone dripping with dismissal. "Darra, this is ambitious, I'll give you that," he said, his lips curling into a patronizing smile. "But you lack the vision for CEO. You're a strategist, not a leader. This plan needs someone with broader perspective." A few nods rippled through the room, and I felt the sting of his words like a slap. My face flushed as I sat down, the humiliation sinking deep. The rest of the meeting, budget debates, client updates, faded into a blur, but Richard's judgment echoed. Lack vision. Not a leader. I'd poured my soul into that plan, working late nights in my cramped apartment, consulting with engineers over endless Zoom calls, sketching blueprints on napkins during lunch breaks, and now it was deemed unfit. I scribbled furiously to mask my shaking hands, vowing to prove him wrong. 3 months later, I was scrolling through LinkedIn during a rare coffee break. A bitter brew from the office machine, when a post stopped me cold. Horizon Ventures had launched a sustainable tech division, complete with a Seattle pilot, mirroring my proposal down to the cost estimates. My stomach churned as I clicked through the announcement. Richard was named division head, his photo beaming beside a sleek new office door. How? Then it hit me. The late-night meetings he'd held, the guarded conversations I'd overheard, the way he'd lingered over my drafts during reviews. He'd taken my plan, polished it with his name, and claimed it as his own. The betrayal cut deeper than his mockery. That night, sleep eluded me. Anger simmered as I paced my living room, replaying the boardroom scene, the nods of agreement, the theft of my work. I'd given Horizon my best. 7 years of loyalty, skipped vacations, missed birthdays, and they'd handed my dream to Richard. But a flicker of resolve sparked. Why let him win? I still had the original documents, the raw data, the unclaimed potential he'd ignored. The next morning I called in sick, citing a family emergency, and locked myself away. I spread my notes across the dining table, the glow of my laptop illuminating the chaos. Over the next 2 weeks, I refined my plan, adding solar grid optimization and a carbon credit model Horizon hadn't considered. By the end, I had a pitch deck that could stand alone, and a risky idea to strike out on my own. Launching a startup wasn't easy. I maxed out my $10,000 savings, quit Horizon, and rented a tiny office in Seattle's SoDo district. A single room with a wobbly desk and a view of a brick wall. I named it Kline Innovations, a nod to my vision of sustainable momentum. My first step was finding investors. I cold-emailed venture capitalists, leveraging contacts from my Horizon days, and pitched at local startup events. The rejections piled up, too niche and proven, but I persisted. My breakthrough came at a Seattle Tech Expo where I met Priya Patel, a VC with a passion for green tech. She listened to my pitch, her eyes narrowing as I detailed the Seattle pilot. "This could work," she said. "But you'll need a team and capital. I can offer $500,000 for 20% equity." I shook her hand, heart pounding. It was a start. Building GreenPulse was a grind. I hired 2 engineers. Mark, a solar expert, and Lisa, a grid analyst, paying them from my dwindling savings while I worked pro bono to keep costs down. We set up a makeshift lab in the office, testing solar panel efficiency with scavenged equipment. I spent nights coding a prototype app to manage energy distribution, my fingers cramped from hours on the keyboard. Priya's investment funded a proper office move to Pioneer Square, with better tech and a small team of 5. My revenue trickled in from freelance consulting, $2,000 a month from startups I'd advised on the side. But it wasn't enough. I took a $50,000 loan, risking everything on the Seattle pilot. The pilot launched 6 months later, a 10-block solar grid in a low-income neighborhood. Initial results were promising, 15% energy cost reduction in the first month. But challenges mounted. A storm damaged panels, costing $20,000 in repairs, and a permitting delay halted progress. I worked 16-hour days, negotiating with suppliers and soothing community concerns over coffee at local diners. Priya stepped in with an additional $200,000, impressed by my grit. By year's end, the pilot hit 25% cost savings, attracting attention from city officials. A $1 million contract followed, pushing GreenPulse's valuation to $5 million. Word reached Horizon. Richard called, his tone clipped. "Darra, this is impressive, but you should have stayed. We could use you back." I laughed. "Use me? You stole my plan." He backtracked, offering a senior role, but I declined. Instead, I dug into my network, learning Horizon was struggling. Flat growth, investor pullouts. Richard's division was under scrutiny, his leadership questioned. I saw an opportunity. At an industry gala, I approached a Horizon board member, casually mentioning my success. "GreenPulse is hiring," I said, planting a seed. Weeks later, a headhunter contacted me. Horizon wanted to discuss a partnership. I scheduled a meeting, framing it as a courtesy. Walking into Horizon's boardroom, now redesigned with modern art, felt surreal. Richard sat at the table, his smirk gone, replaced by a nervous tick. I presented GreenPulse's growth, $5 million valuation, $2 million in contracts, and proposed a buyout offer, $10 million for a majority stake with me as CEO. The room stilled. Richard objected, "You're not CEO material," but the board overruled him, seeing the numbers. "We'll consider it," the chairman said. As I left, I noticed Richard lingering by his old office door, now bearing my name, a temporary mock-up I'd arranged. He read it, his face paling. I smiled. This was just the beginning. The moment I walked out of Horizon's boardroom, Richard's stunned face reading my name on his old office door still burned in my mind. I was no longer just Darra Kline, the underestimated strategist. I was Darra Kline, the founder of Kline Innovations, with a $10 million buyout offer on the table. But the victory was fragile. Horizon's board was considering my proposal, yet I knew Richard wouldn't go down without a fight. My phone buzzed as I stepped into the Seattle drizzle. Priya Patel, my VC partner, calling to debrief. I answered, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. "Bold move, Darra," Priya said, her tone crisp over the line. "That buyout could double our valuation, but Horizon's board is split. Richard's pushing back hard, claiming your plan was his foundation. We need ironclad proof it's yours." My stomach tightened. Of course he'd try to rewrite history. "I have the original drafts, emails, and timestamps," I said. "He can't erase that." Priya paused. "Good. Get a lawyer and file for intellectual property protection. Meet me tomorrow with everything." I hung up, the weight of the battle settling in. That night, I sifted through old files in my Pioneer Square office, the hum of the city filtering through the window. I pulled every draft, meeting note, and email from the past year, evidence that my sustainable tech plan predated Richard's launch by months. The paper trail was solid, but doubt crept in. Horizon might bury me in legal fees. I called Marcus Lee, a corporate lawyer I'd met at a networking event, known for taking on big firms. "They'll fight dirty," he warned. "File a provisional patent and document every step. I'll draft a cease and desist to slow them down." The next day, I met a patent attorney securing protection for my solar grid design. It cost $6,000, but Priya covered half, seeing the stakes. The next morning, I met Priya at a sleek cafe near her office. Her eyes scanned my documents as steam rose from her tea. "This is strong," she said, tapping the timestamps. "But we need to accelerate GreenPulse's growth to pressure Horizon. I can pitch $1 million more for expansion if you hit 30% pilot savings by next quarter." I nodded, the challenge igniting me. Back at the office, I rallied Mark, Lisa, and the team. We optimized the Seattle grid, adding smart sensors to boost efficiency. I worked late, coding updates myself, my fingers aching from the keyboard. By month's end, savings hit 28% and Priya's investment came through. The backlash hit fast. Horizon stock dipped 5% as news of my buyout offer leaked and industry blogs buzzed. "Is Horizon losing to its own talent?" One headline read. Richard called, his voice tight. "Darra, this is a mistake. Come back, we'll negotiate." I laughed. "Negotiate? You stole my work." He hung up, but the damage was done, his credibility waned. GreenPulse's valuation climbed to $7 million with new contracts, including a $500,000 deal with a Portland City Council. I hired 2 more engineers, expanding our lab with cutting-edge solar tech. The legal fight intensified. Horizon's lawyers sent a cease and desist, alleging I'd misappropriated company resources. Marcus countered with my evidence, filing a lawsuit for IP theft. Depositions dragged on, with Richard grilling me for hours about my process. I stayed calm, reciting facts while Marcus uncovered emails. Richard had pitched my plan to the board before I left. "His case is crumbling," Marcus said. I felt a surge of hope, but the pressure mounted. Priya pushed for a second pilot in Portland, and I led the charge, overseeing installation despite sleepless nights. The turning point came at a Seattle Sustainability Summit. I was on a panel discussing green tech when a journalist asked about Horizon. My mentor dismissed me as CO material. I said, "Mike, steady. He stole my plan, but I built an empire anyway." The room erupted, cameras flashing. That night, a clip hit 300,000 views on X, #Darra Kline trending. Horizon's board distanced themselves from Richard, hinting at an audit. Priya pulled me aside. "You're a brand," she said. "Let's rebrand GreenPulse under your name, Kline Innovations. We'll own the narrative." I hesitated but nodded. The rebrand launched with a $5 million campaign, contracts soaring to $3 million. Richard retaliated, leaking old reviews calling me unstable, trying to discredit me. I fought back with a blog post, detailing my journey and attaching proof. Public support surged, with 8,000 signatures on a petition for Horizon accountability. The legal peak hit when Marcus found a memo. Richard had planned to sell the division's tech to a competitor for $2 million, pocketing the profit. We added fraud to the suit. Horizon stock dropped 10% and Richard was suspended. I felt victory near, but Priya wanted Kline Innovations to target Asia. I sketched a Tokyo pilot, but a call from an unknown number stopped me. "Darra, it's a former colleague," the voice said. "Richard's got a backup plan. We need to talk." I stared at the phone, pulse racing. A trap? A confession? The line went dead, leaving me with questions. My empire was growing, but the fight wasn't over. The unknown caller's words lingered as I sat in my Pioneer Square office, the phone still warm in my hand. "Richard's got a backup plan. We need to talk," the former colleague had said before the line went dead. My heart thudded against my chest. Was this a trap to pull me back into Horizon's chaos, or a key to unraveling Richard's final scheme? I saved the number, my mind racing with possibilities, but I set it aside for now. The next morning, I met Priya Patel at a rooftop cafe overlooking Seattle's skyline to finalize Kline Innovations' Asian expansion, though that cryptic call gnawed at me. "We're targeting Tokyo and Mumbai," Priya said, her voice firm as she scrolled through market projections on her tablet. "Kline Innovations could hit $300 million with 30% adoption, but Horizon's lawsuit is a hurdle. We need to end it." I nodded, my focus split. The legal battle had already slashed Horizon's stock by 25%, with Richard suspended and their reputation crumbling. My fraud and IP theft claims were strong, but the backup plan loomed large. "I'll handle it," I promised, though I wasn't sure how to navigate the unknown. That afternoon I called the number back. The voice, belonging to Sarah, a former HR manager at Horizon, cracked with tension. Darra, I'm risking everything here, she said. Richard's been funneling division profits into a secret account, planning to flee with $5 million if the buyout fails. I found the ledger after he was out. Expose it and Horizon could collapse. My breath caught. This was bigger than my plan. It was a corporate scandal. Send me the proof, I said. Hours later, encrypted files hit my inbox. Bank statements, emails, a ledger detailing the siphoned funds. Richard's greed was a trap I could spring. I rushed the evidence to Marcus Lee, my lawyer. This is a game changer, he said, scanning the documents with a grim smile. We can add embezzlement and money laundering, but they'll fight with everything they've got. I didn't hesitate. Let's do it. The amended lawsuit dropped a week later, rocking the business world. Horizon exec faces embezzlement charges blazed across headlines, and their stock plummeted another 15%. Richard was fired, his assets frozen pending investigation. But the retaliation was fierce. Horizon's lawyers subpoenaed my records, and Kline Innovations' board grew jittery. Priya called me in. This is huge, Darra, but it's a distraction, she said, her gaze steady. The Tokyo pilot launches in 10 days. No slip-ups. I threw myself into the rollout, working 18-hour days with Mark, Lisa, and the team. We fine-tuned the solar grid for Tokyo's urban density, testing it with a local retailer. Results were stunning, 35% energy savings in a week. But the legal pressure intensified. Horizon's CEO James Thornton offered a $2 million settlement with an NDA. Walk away, Darra, he urged over a tense video call. This ends now. I hung up. No deal, I wanted justice, not a gag order. Launch day arrived, a virtual event for 60,000 viewers. I stood on stage, Kline Innovations logo behind me, nerves steadying as I spoke. They said I wasn't CEO material. I said, voice clear. I proved them wrong with this. The demo showcased Tokyo's pilot success, contracts rolling in from Mumbai, Tokyo, and Seoul, $350 million total. Mid-presentation, Marcus texted, Horizon's folding. $4 million offer. Richard's confessing. I finished strong, but my mind raced with the implications. Afterward, Marcus confirmed it. Horizon offered $4 million to drop the suit, and Richard would testify against the board for leniency. They're desperate, he said. I accepted, but demanded a public apology naming Richard's theft. They agreed after days of negotiation, and a week later, Horizon apologizes for mishandling Darra. Kline's vision hit the news, with Richard's confession on a business podcast. His career was ruined, his reputation in ruins. With the legal war won, Kline Innovations promoted me to CEO. $250,000 salary, 5% equity. My savings hit $750,000, and I bought a penthouse overlooking Puget Sound. Mark and Lisa became directors, and I hired a 10-person team for global expansion. But Sarah's final email revealed a chilling twist. Richard had planned to sell Horizon's tech to a Chinese firm for $15 million, a deal derailed by my lawsuit. I forwarded it to the SEC, providing a detailed statement. Investigators contacted me requesting a meeting. I spent 4 hours at their office laying out the evidence. They launched a probe, but the outcome was uncertain. Richard could face prison and Horizon sanctions. One evening, as I unpacked from Tokyo, a letter arrived, handwritten, no return address. Inside was a photo of Richard in handcuffs, escorted by AC agents, with a note, "You ended him. Watch your back." No signature, just a cryptic PS, "The board knows." My blood ran cold. A threat? A warning? I called Marcus, who urged caution but couldn't trace it. The mystery deepened, and I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me. Standing on my balcony, Puget Sound glittering below, I felt a profound victory. This was more than revenge. It was my legacy. Horizon's fall was my doing, Kline Innovations my empire. The future held endless paths. A memoir, a foundation for underestimated leaders or global dominance. As I sipped my tea, the city hummed, but that letter's shadow loomed. What lay ahead? Only time would tell. Hey Revenge Tempest fans. Darra's rise from rejection to empire is epic. Loved it? Smash that subscribe button and join our squad. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from.